Thank you, Dylan. He says your laugh is awesome. You're awesome, man. You're awesome. I'm awesome because you are here, which makes me awesome, and I appreciate you. I appreciate every single one of you. God, I am a soul of gold. Aww. I try. I had a freaking rough childhood, and being an entertainer, being a streamer, this is who I was born to be. And now that I am over a lot of my like childhood regression syndrome stuff, I really feel like a grown-ass man. There's no like hesitation. Like, to show you an example, okay, so I am formal from here up. I am in sweatpants. Sweatpants. I am in my sweatpants because I want to be comfortable. Now, granted, there will be some streams that I do. Realist shit, bro. I strive to be like you, bro. I want to never grow up. That's how I do. Aww. Sean, I'm glad you said that, because there is a sense of not growing up, but growing up. All right, so let's talk about that for a second. Yee, I love this. See, this is my favorite part of the streams, when I get to talk to you guys about, like, the really important stuff, okay, and that really, really, really matters. So let's talk about that. Somebody on my TikTok just said, the realest shit, bro. I strive to be just like you. He's talking about me. I want to never grow up, and that's how to stay happy. I am so glad you said that. And the reason why is there is a certain sense of emotional responsibility. That's what I call growing up. If you learn how to be able to confront your shadows, the things that at one point controlled your life and you just called it fate. When you realize that when you have a negative or even like a hyper positive reaction to something, that is a like past retroactive reaction that you got to get over, because there is something from your past that gave you this much of an emotional response. So yeah, you grow up, but you don't grow up. You don't lose your childhood, your innocence. Like, it's okay to not be a virgin, but don't lose your innocence. You know, don't go out and commit crimes and do all that stupid shit. And somebody says, to be honest, Dylan says it's hard for him. He is a huge 18-year-old child because of his ADHD. Dude, I have ADHD. I'm with you on that, man. You know how I've been able to kind of get over my ADHD? I have been able to turn the work that I'm doing into an ADHD. Okay, let me do this. Okay, let me do this. Okay, let me do this. Because each let me do this thing refers to the next step in what I'm doing. Okay, like my video editing for my documentary series. It's really easy for me. I've learned now to kind of edit in layers, just like I draw in layers. So it's like I'll edit all my spoken word at first. Then I'll go back and then I'll add stuff on top of that. Then I add my music. Then I do all the stuff in layers, and it just builds up into this nice pizza pie. You know what I mean? That's amore. So that's what you got to do. You learn to be a master by mastering the masterings. So I work as a MMJ grower. That's awesome. Exactly. It's helped with mine too. Hey, Flamin' Yawn, welcome back. Yeah, so I take CBD, and if it was legal where I lived in Georgia, I would actually be a cannabis patient. So I don't blame you at all. I do not. I am a huge avid supporter of it and cannot wait for legalization, which is one of the only reasons y'all don't see me do more streams, is because I live in constant pain. I have a crushed 2 vertebrae in my neck, and I have a spider fractured left side of my skull, so I can't go more than like an hour or 2 standing up, and I don't qualify for disability from the government because I only have 8.5 years of work credit, and you need 10 to get disability from the government. So the government's just like, you. So that's why I became a streamer. That's why I became a documentary filmmaker, because it's the thing that I can do and be my own boss, own my own business, set my own terms, be as good as I personally can push myself to be every day. I compete with myself. I don't compete with other people on YouTube. I compete with myself. And I love that. I love that. Yes, Dylan says, I always find this question. You'll find love when you find yourself. That is so true, dude. You really will. And I have a quote that's like, when you learn to be honest with yourself the right way, that's when you learn how to love yourself the right way. And completely. When you are honest with yourself the right way. And that's the only way to do it, man. That is the only way to do it. is you really have to be honest with yourself. And that first comes from with like admitting that shadow part of yourself, the part of you that's like an executive procrastinator, which is me. That comes from my ADHD, because I know anything that I'm doing is not hard, okay? The hard part is learning. And how I've been able to get over that curve is realizing that with each thing that I learn, that's potentially more, I hate to say it like this, but more money. Yo, Nick, are you real? I am always real, my friend. Hey, Demon, welcome, my bud. I'm on YouTube and Twitch if you want to come and join. Y'all are awesome. I love you guys. I can't believe we have been streaming solid for an entire year. Can y'all believe it? That is a good quote. I think that if I can't love myself, what's the point in loving somebody when you don't love yourself? It does make perfect sense, my friend, and that is the absolute God's honest truth. Senecas, welcome! I missed all of y'all. I am so glad to be back. I am so glad to be back. Smog attacks. Jesus.
And the Lord said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And this is one of those phrases where every clause is significant. Go somewhere you don't understand. That's the first thing. Get thee out of thy country.
Two things, my dream and my faith. Faith is the belief in things that you cannot see. You can never lose faith. That's the key. You have to believe in something that you can't see. You have to believe when you don't see no way how. You have to buckle down and keep believing. God is always coming. Here's the deal. The moment you ask God for something, he boxes it up and he ships it to you. Here's the problem with the package. He never gives you the date that it's going to arrive. It's going to come. He just don't tell you when. If he told you when, it would destroy the relationship that's required to have an abundant life, which is faith.
You know, back in the 1920s, there was a whole slew of American writers who ended up as expatriates in Paris, Hemingway among them, and Fitzgerald, yes, and a variety of others. It was very inexpensive in Paris at the time, and part of their transformation into great literary figures was the fact that they were out of their country, and now they could see what their country was, because you can't see what your country is until you leave it. So you have to go into the unknown, and that's God's first command. Go into the unknown, because you already know what you know. And that's not enough unless you think you're enough. And if you're not enough and you don't think you're enough, then you have to go where you haven't been. And so that's the first commandment to Abraham. It's like, okay, that's a good one. That makes perfect sense. Go to where you don't know. Yes. And from thy kindred. Well, what does that mean? It means grow up, right? That's what it means. It means get away from your family enough so that you can establish your independence.
If God told you you were going to be rich in August of 2021, do you know how crazy you would talk to people from now until then? Because you know on August 21, I'm going to be rich. But he don't tell you when the package is going to arrive. So here's the deal. He wants you to stay in faith to receive the package, because he only delivers to Faith Street. If you step off over here to I Don't See How Boulevard, he don't ship there. If you get over here to I Don't See How Circle, he does not ship there. He only sends the boxes to Faith Street. So when he sends it and you'd have moved off Faith Street, the package gotta go back. It's just like UPS or the post office. If they send you a box and you ain't home, they take it back. That's how it works, man.
You know, I talk to people very frequently whose families have provided them with too much protection, and they know it themselves, and that means they're deprived of necessity. You know, one of the things that you see in the United States, for example, is that the children of first-generation immigrants often do better than their children. And the reason for that is that the children of first-generation immigrants have necessity driving them. And you don't know how much you need necessity to drive you, because maybe you're not very disciplined. And if a catastrophe doesn't immediately befall you if you don't act forthrightly today, then maybe you never act forthrightly, right? Because the gap between your foolishness and the punishment is lengthened by your unearned wealth, and so you never grow up and learn, and you have to get yourself away from your dependency in order to allow necessity to drive you forward. And that's to become independent and to become mature.
Let me tell y'all something. Being successful is not a magic trick. You just have to learn the principles of success. I ain't got no degree. I got nothing like that to tell you about. I didn't finish school. I flunked out of school. I'm on my third marriage. Lost everything I owned twice. Been homeless, lived in a car. I am telling you, your education ain't got nothing to do with it. Education ain't in the Bible. Emory is not in the Bible. It ain't in there. Harvard ain't in the Bible. Look, find it. Show me education in the Bible. No, man, it's your dreams and visions. A man without a dream or vision shall perish. That's what the Bible is built on. It's what God puts in your imagination for you to have. Everything God wants you to have, he puts it in your imagination. Albert Einstein said imagination is everything. It's the preview to life's coming attractions. Everything you imagine is God showing you a preview of a coming attraction he has for you. And he puts it in your imagination so you can see what he got for you. So if you've been imagining that you're going to be rich one day, it's because God wants you to be rich. Now, when you going to ask him for it, and are you going to wait for it to happen? Or are you going to lose faith? Here's what Christians mess up at. Well, I guess it wasn't the Lord's will. Who are you? How you know what God's will is? It all happens at an appointed time, but you have to stay in faith for the appointed time to happen for you.
And I think part of what's happening in our culture is that the force that's attacking the forthright movement forward of young men in particular is afraid of the power of men because it's confused about the distinction between power and authority and competence. Like a man who has authority and competence has power as a byproduct, but the authority and competence is everything. And people who can't understand that fail to make the distinction between power and authority and competence, and they're afraid of power, and so they destroy authority and competence. And that's a terrible thing because we need authority and competence. What else is going to allow us to prevail in the long run? And so you get away from your country and you get away from your kin and from your father's house, right? And you go out there and you establish yourself in the world. It's a call to adventure. That's what the first lines in the Abrahamic story is, a call to adventure. So, great, unto a land that I will show you. I've been struck very hard by a number of writers, Carl Jung obviously among them. He wrote things like Nietzsche that if you understand them, they just break you into pieces, you know? And one of the things that Jung understood and the psychoanalysts understand, it's one of the most terrifying elements of psychoanalytic thinking. It's very tightly allied with religious thinking, which is that you are not the master of your own house. There are spirits that dwell within you, meaning you have a will and you can exercise a certain amount of conscious control over your being, but there are all sorts of things that occur within you that seem to be beyond your capacity to control. Your dreams, for example, that's a really good example, or your impulses, for example. You might think of those as so foreign from you that you don't even want them to be part of you. But more subtly even, how about what you're interested in, what compels you? Interest manifests itself and grips you. And so there's a calling in you towards what you're compelled by and what you're interested in. And sometimes that might be very dark and sometimes not. But you're compelled forward by your interest. And so the idea that what moves you away from your country and your father's house and the comforts of your childhood home is something that's beyond you and that you listen to and hearken to. That's exactly right. And you can say, well, I don't want to call that God. It's like, it doesn't matter what you call it exactly. It doesn't matter to what it is, what it's called. It still is. And if you don't listen to it, that's the other thing. If you don't listen to it, and I've been a clinician and talked to enough people now, as old as I am, to know this absolutely. If you do not listen to that thing that beckons you forward, you will pay for it like you cannot possibly imagine. You'll have everything that's terrible about life in your life and nothing about it that's good. And worse, you'll know that it was your fault and that you squandered what you could have had. So, this is not only a calling forth, but a warning. Unto a land that I will show thee. And that's it, that I will show thee. And you don't want to be too concrete about this, you know. There's all sorts of new territories that you can inhabit. there's abstract and conceptual territories. If you go to university and you study biology or you study physics or any discipline, you're in a territory, right? You're in the territory that all the scholars have established. And then as you master the discipline, you move out beyond the established territory into the unknown. And that's a new land, right? Maybe it's even a land of your enemies, for that matter. But it's a new land. The frontier is always in front of you. And so the frontier is a place that never disappears, and the land that's beyond the land that you know is always there, and it's always where you should go. And all of that's packed into these, 4 phrases.
I've been wanting to be on TV since I was 10 years old. You know how old I was before I got on TV? 38. 28 years after I wrote it on the paper. I want to be on TV. It took me 28 years to get on TV. But it happened at an appointed time. I just never gave up the faith. I kept going because I ain't know how to quit. Because I know if I quit, it cannot happen. But if you stay with it, like this dude's story right here, if you stay with it, you have no idea what can happen for you. But you gotta stay with it, man. You can't quit because get hard. This dude done lost his legs. He's still funky with it. You can't quit because you got your leg. What you tripping for? Your punk. Sorry about that. You can't quit, man. You got to stay with it. There's somebody having it way harder than you, and they didn't give up. That's inspiration. This dude is inspiration, man. I look at a cat like this, I bruised my heel between shows. I messed it up before. I really bruised it hard. It's so hurting right now. What I'm tripping for? And the dude come tell me, hey man, you wanna go home? Go home. I got a bruised heel. What I'm gonna go home? I got a bruised heel. You're tripping, man. Get yourself together. God got a great life for you. I'm telling you, God got a plan for you that's so out of sight, it would trip you out. All you gotta do is ask him for it and wait on it and be willing to work. Faith without works is dead. That's all you got to do. You don't need no education. I flunked out of school. Look at me, Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates don't have a degree between the two of them. But they got more degrees working for them than a thermometer. You know how many people I got working for me that got degrees? Everybody high got a degree. Because I know I ain't that smart. But I got money for you. You smart, here go, how much you want? You told me, I want $150,000 a year, here you go. Man, this Steve paid me $150,000 a year. Bruh, you got what I don't have. You gonna take that 150 and help me get this billion? I got 154 billion. How God give me this and he won't give it to you? I ain't a better Christian than you. Look at me, I've been up here cussing, I made mistakes. That's the type of Christian I am. You a better Christian than me? You should have something to show for it. But God don't ask you for your perfection. He asks you for your consistency. There's none perfect, no, not one. So since ain't nobody perfect, who going to heaven? Because he got a heaven for us. So who going? I figure I'm going.